Okay. If everyone is here and started, I'd like to get started with our IPv4 transfer experience panel. I have Sandra Brown from the IPv4 Market Group, Jack Hazan, Hilco Streambank, out of order, David Huberman from Microsoft. I have Elvis Velia from V4 Escrow, and I have Mark Lindsay from Avenue 4? Yes, thank you, Mark. Yes. Okay, all of these people have been involved in transfers, and since we've had a transfer policy for some time, we figured it would be good for people to have an opportunity to speak about their experiences with the transfer policy, because that will help inform the community and look at our policies and see how they're doing. Everyone has a brief introductory statement, and so we're going to go through those, and then we're going to open it up for questions.
Thank you, and thank you, David, for setting this panel up, and ARIN for allowing us to share our experiences with you. I'm just going to give you just a little of my background, only so you could understand my perspective in establishing how we go about going to market with the address blocks that we get. If anyone told me 10 years ago when I was an attorney, I was a bankruptcy attorney, that I'd be selling internet numbers, I would, I don't know what I'd do, but I certainly did not expect to be doing this. But really, it's sort of, after retrospect, it's actually an interesting match. So our company, Hilco Streambank, sells and values intellectual property generally. So the IPv4 business is only one division of our company. We look at global intellectual property, and sometimes I confuse people when I say we call intellectual property IP, so I have to try and say intellectual property. So we sell all trademarks, patents, copyrights, domain names, and internet numbers. Whenever I tell people we sell internet numbers, it's not in this crowd. They look at me like I'm from outer space. But in any event, so number one, we have a background in selling all types of intellectual property, and this is a natural fit. I also was a bankruptcy attorney whose focus in a lot of my practice was establishing sale procedures in bankruptcy cases. And so we were charged with looking at a company that had particular assets that not always were regular assets that people fully understood, not always assets that there was complete clarity over how they're owned, what sets of rights people have to them. And we were charged with establishing sale procedures that made all the constituents in the case comfortable, that their rights were protected, and that made buyers comfortable that they were buying something and getting at the end of the process what they set out to buy. And so with that lens on our practice, we saw this opportunity and went forward to try and establish a system that worked. And our first sale took a while, a lot of head scratching and figuring it out. But through our experiences, I think we've progressed to address a lot of the concerns. And I'll just share with you just some of the issues that we've seen and how we address them. Just going a little out of order, just to Sandra's point about auctions, I don't disagree with Sandra that many people are not comfortable buying in an auction. And we understand that, although in bankruptcy it's usually an auction because it needs to be a public forum. But there also are reasons, and there are people that would prefer to buy in an auction because it's clear, it's a little bit more transparent, and they know what other people are bidding. And so we've set out to go both directions. We do many private confidential sales and negotiated sales and go through the contract process, and some companies are particular over the terms of the contracts. But on the flip side, we saw a need for transparency in the market, and a lot of people that we went to well, you know, I'm paying X for addresses, and how do I know that that's the right price? You know, maybe it's 2 times X, or 10 times X, or, you know, 0.1 of X. And so we created an online auction platform that, if you take a look at it, you'll see you don't have to be a bidder, and anyone in the public could go on and see how much addresses are trading for, and in what regions, and how many transactions we're doing. And so the auction process has its positives, and we'll go either way for depending on the needs of the parties. Just to sorry if I'm repetitive on some of the points that Sandra made as well, but pre-approval. So one of the biggest hurdles that we came across in our transactions was, I'm buying this, but I don't know if I can get it because I have to go through ARIN approval. And so we've worked through ARIN on many transactions, and hats off to their staff. I mean, they've really progressed over the last few years to a point where I think we've dramatically improved the time that a sale takes place, and they've been pretty diligent in, you know, answering questions and clarifying things for buyers. The pre-approval system is I highly advise, if you're going in for a transaction, to have pre-approval. If not, you know, we do transactions that are subject to approval, but there's a risk of not closing a transaction because of it. On our auction system, we openly encourage pre-approval, and in fact, if you win an auction and you don't get approved, there's a fee that you have to pay. So we go ahead and get requests, both from sellers and buyers, or you want to call them transferees, for sales of /24s, /20s, /22s. So we saw a need and a big marketplace out there for the smaller blocks as well. We addressed that with the online platform as well. You don't have to negotiate a contract. You click buy, and the terms and conditions are outlined on the site, and so everyone knows what their terms and conditions are. If they read it, if they just clicked I agree, well, they are what they are. But we've enabled people to buy and sell smaller blocks. So thought that was helpful, and with the transparency on top of it, that created an atmosphere and a system where people can trade in these assets without, or assets, I don't know if that's the right word, but trade in this in addresses in a efficient manner that suits the amount of money that they're spending on it.
Congratulations. Okay, second back microphone.
Kevin Bloomberg.
Bill, you can get in line again. I just want to keep it moving quick.
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire. So we still have smaller blocks in this particular region, and I think you could say in other regions as well, with their end of days policies, smaller providers can still get space. My concern is that there is going to be a minimum floor that is going to be prohibitive to the smaller transfers. And what I mean by the minimum floor is when you take into account your cut, the legal cut, the transfer cut, and everything else, the actual cost of the block on a 24 or 23 is very small. What can we do to improve that? I.e., I expect legally right now the documents are a massive cost. Is there a way of completely getting that down and getting the minimum floor down moving forward?
Question for the panel on a lower floor. How do we do it?
Well, we've attempted to at least improve that by taking away all the legal costs through the online platform. You know, frankly, we don't make much. We probably lose money when we sell it /24 at this point. However, we've taken down a lot of those barriers over there, and you know, at some point, it's, you know, the market is going to be the market, and if it's too expensive, I'm not sure how we could address it. But we're trying to make the transaction process smoother so that people can get through it reasonably, and we are selling /24. So right now, people are paying more per address for a /24, then for larger blocks, and they're closing the transactions, and they're going through ARIN.
Just to, a quick question to follow up to Jack. Is your current point-and-click transactional scenario compatible with the 35 countries that ARIN is a part of? I think it's 35. Give or take.
28 economies.
28? Oh, a couple. So as a Canadian organization, would that point-and-click legal whatever be compatible with a Canadian company?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if we have choice of law provisions in there, for example. So that if there is, it's probably one. But we have sold blocks in Asia off of that site, and it's the same site. So it's compatible. I imagine that as we grow it and as we have more participants in foreign countries, we'll do more to accommodate them, translation, et cetera, as well.
Thank you.
I guess to go to Lee's question, even if you know you're dealing with the person whose name matches, how do you know they're the party that actually is the legal successor of the block being sold?
We do the same diligence, but my advice to you if you're taking a transfer is you should also do your homework and make sure your team checks it out as well. We extensively, before we take anything on, make sure that, at least to our satisfaction, they are they have rights to the addresses, but you should do your homework as well.
Okay. Let me ask a question of the panel. I'll generalize this. ARIN, right now, we report on transfers, and by the way, we do the minimal reporting on transfers. You actually have to go to the log to go find what Mark wants, who it went to, who it came from. All we put is an address block up there. We could do more complete. We could do that for you, as other people do. But my question is, what about the data that no one has? How long did it take? What was the price involved? Should we be asking that of transfer parties voluntarily? Should it be required by policy? Do you want some real transparency here from the RIRs? Comments?
Okay. I represent a buyer. I have transactions in both the small end of the market and the large end. The small end for one-offs in their own ASs, and the large end for the main network. Never had a transaction take more than 2 months, 2.5 months. The longest transaction was because the seller was represented by very capable counsel, and I brought to the table capable counsel, which was good for both parties. That took longer. I've completed a transaction in 5 days of a /8. 5 days. To John's question, IP addresses are an asset. I think you've heard that from everyone on this stage, from the people actually performing in the market today.
ARIN agrees they're an asset.
It is an asset. When I buy service from HP, I'm not telling Dell what I paid for HP because I'm trying to screw Dell out of smaller prices. So that's not going to work. ARIN can't.
Is that corporate policy?
Yes, for us it is, right. ARIN can't ask, and okay. Buyers and sellers aren't going to tell, because in a post-exhaustion world, it's dog eat dog. I'm sorry, it's a market, and it's subject to the market.
Do any of the brokers want to respond?
I don't disagree, and although our auction platform gives you at least some sampling that you can look at, we can't force companies to disclose what they don't want to disclose with something like this. It's not, it's not like, I guess, transactions that are subject to taxes and the like that need that otherwise.
Can you comment briefly on the range of time? That was what the question was, for transactions you've had on your platform.
We've, again, have your ducks in a row. We've closed transactions in a week, mm-hmm. and we've had a transaction that's taken a year. And maybe it was because there was a court proceeding behind it as well, and some other situations, and then also just because maybe the buyer doesn't have his ducks in a row and didn't get pre-approval, obviously, and was not ready to go through the approval process in the right way.
Thank you. So we've had a good panel. I want to let each panelist give 30-second closing remarks, and then we'll get you folks off to lunch.
you guys are here making policy, and hats off to the process. It's been fascinating to watch. I've made a conscious effort to not put my opinion on policy out into the public because it's clearly, obviously slanted, but a lot of the considerations that we put in to whether a clear market is a free market is better for everyone, you got to balance that with the other needs of the community as well. So make sure you think of everything when you're making those decisions.
You, David.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists and David for his idea of this panel. Thank you, everyone.